Truck 26. The primary bulk of the fire is at the rear of the one-story that is just to the east. The taller one-story is also an exposure we need to get opened up, but the bulk of the fire is in the rear of this one-story commercial.
Roger, Truck 26. Do we have fire in that tall one-story? It looks like a two-story from the street.
26! Emergency area! Back! Right now! Anyone just went through the fire, heavy fire! It's Cheyenne Caldwell, Truck 26! Get him out! Engine 26, wires coming. On this roof! Get me a line on this roof right now! Drop the ticket!
Yeah, company's on the roof. Are we declaring emergency traffic?
Give me a line! Give me your drop back! Give me your drop back! Give me a line! Give me a line!
There's emergency traffic, bridge traffic on the 68 fire. We do have a fireman down through the roof.
Got it! What's back in here? What's back right here?
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Firemanship Podcast by WCO. I'm your host, Cameron Monahan. With me again, Colin Kelley, Mark Carcamo. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, this is going to be a part two to roof member Mayday that we talked about in the last episode. Kind of hit on a whole bunch of things, but I think there's some stuff that we have left leading up to this. And I think really what we're talking about is maybe starting at the beginning of the shift, what could members do in preparation for that Mayday that could come on that roof,
Or anywhere.
or anywhere for that matter, for sure. Any thoughts on that, preparation prior to the incident?
I think we can draw a lot of parallels, like we said yesterday, and that is, it starts at relief, correct? And we were just joking about an incident that another department had, and the whole company got in way elbows deep on an incident and figured out that the piece of equipment that they were supposed to use to help extinguish a fire wasn't exactly in good working order. So I would say the things that we touched upon yesterday, and that is having that air bottle as full as it can possibly be. How many of you guys are doing that in the morning when you go in there, right? Hey, that's something that's going to be with you all the time. But the second thing I will say, and it's a countrywide epidemic from just watching these videos over and over again, seeing what these people do, is that waist strap. So important. I don't care if you're going to the roof or you're going interior. That is going to ensure if somebody has to do some kind of movement on you, they're probably going to go to that BA. And if that waist strap is not on and cinched, they're going to pull that thing right off your back. And it compounds, I think, more on a roof, especially if a guy is partially in. Where are we going to grab him? How do we get him? We know that if we go low and high on either side, because we did it, you have a better chance of getting that guy out of there by being able to grab the waist strap and the actual shoulder strap. And a guy on each side doing that lends itself a lot better to a successful rescue versus, hey, let me just pull on both shoulder straps. So that's something I will reiterate on that. Go ahead.
Just a little factoid for our numbers peoples. NFPA 1983-2012 edition shoulder strap and waist straps are supposed to be rated for minimum 13 kilonewtons pull strength, 3,034 pound static load. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so the other thing that I will say to you is, the inventory is super, super, super important. And that's all members, not the rookie, not the low guy on the totem pole, all members looking. And if you got an engine company, at a minimum, well, I shouldn't say that, but in my world and seeing what happens here out on the West Coast, that's a minimum of 3 sets of eyes on each piece of equipment that pertains to your actual survival on the fire ground. And I know I'm not going to check somebody else's breather because that's just not my gig. I don't like doing that. I did some of that shit when I was a young fireman. And when I sat back and thought about it after I had some time on it, I'm going, how stupid did somebody let me be the guy that decides whether or not they live? How dumb is that, right? Control what you can control. That statement sticks out in my head so much. It's like, how do I control that if I let some other guy check my face piece and my breather for me? Just nonsense, right? It's fucking nonsense. So good, getting back to it, the second part of this thing, and I think is the in route considerations, and it's again something that I think goes without saying that at a bare minimum, when you're in route and you know you're going into this fire, whether it's a visual that you see, or you hear multiple calls, or you're not first view and you hear them give that size up, there are some minimums that you should be doing, and that is that radio should be on the tax channel locked and at full volume. The second thing is the flashlight that's on your body, activate it. That may be the only time you get to do that. So again, I'll go back and go, do you guys have an LED readout on your flashlight? I did. It's kind of cool. Very nice flashlight. And it showed you the level that thing was at. And again, you got to be smart enough to go, well, you know what? It's showing all the way up. The batteries have been in there. We haven't gone into incidents. Who's it hurt to change it? Again, control what you can control. If you have any apprehension, always err on the side of saving your own life. The next thing I'll talk about again is off the rig with that breather on, those shoulder straps snug down correctly, that waist strap buckled and tightened up. Now you're ready to go and do whatever your firefighting operation is. Something that I'm going to reach back on, and that's that radio, and that is, keep in mind, guys, that radio that you have is about 3.5 watts, that handheld radio. And time after time, you can go to these specific incidents and listen to the radio traffic. And remember, you got 3.5 watts. The average rig radio, it hadn't been a while since I've checked, but it's around 35 watts. Who's going to win that battle? Yeah. So in your head, you should be thinking now, hey, how many times do I say it on the TAC channel? Mayday, 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 and I'm getting cut off. What's my plan B? And that has happened recently within my own agency, guys getting cut off, and it happens all the time. And it's not by fault. I don't think people are purposely doing it. However, when somebody's calling a Mayday and you're asking what your assignment is, I guess so much for the maintain radio discipline, right? That's something that you really have to do.
And don't forget about the orange button, fireman. Don't forget about the orange button as well.
Right? You compete with nobody with that button. I'm not telling you what to go to. I'm not telling you how to call that Mayday. But I will tell you this, if I got 3.5 and that guy's got 35 and you got an active fire and a lot of people coming, I would say probably a pretty good chance something's going to be missed in your message if it's on that tactical operational channels. So keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm. All good points. All good points. And I guess it's not pre-trip or something like that, but it's definitely pre-getting to the roof, depending on, I guess, your department's SOPs and stuff. But before making that roof, at least with the BA on your back, have that pass or have your air bottle on so it activates your pass device prior to making the roof. So at least that thing's activated too prior to making that.
That's an amazing point, because who does that? Who charges their air bottle before they go to work? You know, because in my agency, I still think that they're allowed to make that choice of whether or not they want that air bottle, or they want to be on air, I should say, with their mask. So that's a great point. And remember, if you're depending on that Voz to work and bail you out, if that mask isn't on your face and that bottle isn't on, you just put 2 strikes against yourself, right? And it's just things to think about, because when I was a young fireman, we never talked about Maydays on a roof. We never did that. And there was not a whole lot of talk about Maydays interior, right? Which is the most common, obviously, because we have way more engine companies doing interior attack. However, what's that, Colin?
No, we've been beating this drum for how long now on this topic?
Oh, fuck. I would say a good, 8 years.
And I still don't see a lot of people on the interwebs, hand in hand prepping and talking about, this side of the roof operation. And if they are, they're talking about some what we consider to be unrealistic solutions. But
Well, I would say this. We were actually had this moment of clarity when we were doing it, because I told you back in 2000 when I made operator, I really didn't have that as part of my playbook. And the guy, like I told you, came along, Tony, and told me, hey, what are you going to do when somebody falls in a roof? And it's like, oh shit. Didn't think of that one. And we were talking, hey, we're taking this class to these agencies and telling them, yes, you can do roof work. Yes, you can be aggressive on the roof. But did we tell them what happens when things don't go exactly as planned?
yeah,
And so we kind of came around and said, hey, we got to at least offer this so these guys can get out there and go, we're stepping into something that we don't normally do. What's the safety factor? What can we do to help ourselves if we get up there and get ourselves in a bit of a pickle? Because we know, remember, the fire is a screw up from the get-go. Something caught on fire and we're just coming to help and hopefully alleviate this person's bad day. We shouldn't be bringing victims to the incident whenever possible. It's just not a good operating procedure. And I tell you, the next thing I'll talk about is this hope, right? Hope, and we'll figure it out when we get there. Hope is not a tactical operational consideration. It's not. It shouldn't be in any fireman's vocabulary when they're operating an emergency incident. It's bad. And so is this figured out when we get there comment or phrase, that means you don't have a plan. You won't have a plan. And when shit goes sideways, it's probably going to be very visual that you forgot or didn't give a shit about what was happening to you or your people. And that doesn't take the officer or the operator to be the driving force behind that. Cause I worked at a place that was very busy, and for a couple times there, a couple regimes ran through there, and it was a fireman that, okay, yeah, that's what we're going to do. We made ourselves better because we took the bull by the horns and said, yeah, that's what we do in case we have an issue. Let's operate as if this guy doesn't exist. Right. So I would say, don't be afraid to be that guy that asks those hard questions at that kitchen table. Hey, what are we going to do if we get to the roof and something doesn't go right? Fuck, ask, man. The time to ask is when it's not when it's happening, man, because it'll turn into chaos. It will be chaos already. However, at least you have that muscle memory and go back to what we say we need to do.
And we kind of talked about, or have talked about, those three main things that could happen on a roof. We could have a member that falls partially into the roof, whether that's a foot, whether that's waist deep, whether that's shoulder deep. You have a member that goes all the way through the roof. Or we could have some sort of a medical emergency with one of the members on the roof. The three different areas that, hey, we think you could focus on, you could have plans to get out of those.
which is still what's killing us, right? Cardiac issues across this country.
But we talked for a second, maybe you guys reiterate on this or go more into depth, but why would it maybe be important, just the terminology of, hey, if one of the guys goes partially into the roof or through the roof, why the terminology member into the roof, or as far as the radio comms go, as far as a Mayday goes, instead of using maybe, hey, fireman through the roof or firefighter into the roof?
Go ahead, Colin, address that.
I mean, the IC and everybody else coming to help needs to know exactly where they are. And when I say exactly where they are, there's a marked difference, right, between a guy that goes in partially, halfway, whatever term you use, make sure it's clear. That means he's still up there, right? He's at the top side level, versus someone that's no longer visible from the roof, right? So I mean, that changes the entire operation to an extent, right? The guy it could go either way, but I mean, the guy that's in halfway and now there's fire venting around him, he's not going to want to stay in that position very long. They've all said the same thing. It was either I wanted to be cooled off, or I'm going to work and I'm just going to continue to try to fight and break through this roof to keep going, to get out of that fire. Right. So then it becomes, if they do that, where did they end up? Are they in the attic, truss space, truss loft, cock loft, whatever term you use, or are they all the way through into the interior? So I don't know if that's what you were kind of going for.
No, no. So all those are great points. But I think what we're hitting on here is when that call is made, for that firefighter through the roof, we've had incidents, and I think what we're referring to on this thing is, with all the chaos that's going on here, and as a roof team, I'm giving a report, right? So that IC is sitting down to whoever's running the fire, or maybe I'm just speaking to the engine company, and I say firefighter through the roof. In my particular agency, it's been probably 20 some plus years. So had a guy had that happen to them. And the captain on the roof is calling QIC, hey, I've got a firefighter through the roof. You can clearly hear that in the comms. However, what the IC heard was fire through the roof. Roger. Okay, we cut a hole, we got fire through the roof, right? And that went back and forth a couple times to the point that the captain is going, okay, it's not making sense. And I told you, it's all new stuff to us at this time. You know what? I'm going to go down and make a face-to-face. So he climbs down the aerial up a 3 or 4 story center hall apartment house. So this is no quick operation, right? And the whole time, this guy's down in self-survival mode, fell through, is trapped on these ceiling joists. This guy walks out, as long as this takes, guy figures out after 3 times or 4 times, hey, I'm not getting across. Guy doesn't understand me. Comes down a ladder. And as he gets to the command post to tell this guy, no, I didn't say fire through the roof. It was firefighter through the roof. Here's the fireman that fell through the roof, crossed sideways on the ceiling joist, sitting inside there, cooking his ass off because there's fire in the attic, has the presence of mind to turn 90 degrees. Luckily for him, he was smaller in stature, and he punched and punched and punched and turned his body enough and wiggled it through that he actually fell into a room that had been knocked down. And walked down and met this captain at the command post. No fault of the captain. However, what we're getting at here is just a long-winded way of saying, let's eliminate that issue and say member through the roof or member partially through, right? And that way there's no confusion. God dang it, man. And then I think the second thing is, we've talked about this before we started this morning, and we're talking about naming names. And I know a lot of agencies probably have some apprehension about that. However, another incident that we had on my agency, and that is double Mayday goes down. First off, don't I want the clarity to know what that guy's name is? And especially like with Colin's agency, tons of other departments you run in on a regular basis. That mutual aid sticks its ugly head up all the time. So now what am I doing? Hey, I got the guy after, what do you got? 2 Truck 61s working there from 2 different agencies. Okay, now, isn't it important to give that guy's name so we can, if we find that guy, we can clear that Mayday and we know we've exhausted that. Now, if there's a second or third one, now we got to concentrate on that. So those are things that I think, you should be thinking about at a minimum, especially if you're running mutual aid, is keep those things in mind.
Yeah, that's something you have to think about.
Go ahead, Cap.
I say that's something you got to think about beforehand, right? Because if you didn't think about, hey, terminology matters on the radio, well, right, it does matter. So that member versus firefighter, you can see where that can get tripped up easily.
You better have practiced that before you're in that situation, because I can't think of a more elevating, alarming scenario to be in when you now have to be an ace on the radio. You just watched one of your guys go in. I mean, come on. We've heard the radio traffic from some of these fires. One in particular, maybe where out the guy. It's you could tell he's extremely frantic initially, still making decisions, still making things happen. But you can only imagine, try to imagine being in that situation. So you better be practicing this beforehand, so that it's muscle memory to an extent.
Is there anything else on a member partially into the roof that we didn't touch on, or another?
I'd just like to
puzzle
in, guys and gals, our SOG for going to the roof. Just want to drive this point home. We throw 2. We bring the hooks. We bring the right kind of hooks. And I'm using the word right because the beauty of a rubbish hook is not only its ability for a larger head, a larger, surface area to strike and really get a good feel for that roof system out in front of you, But also, if you're on a peaked roof and trying to rescue the member, you can create a foothold with that roof that you cannot do with other hooks. Even just, shimming a valve, whatever the situation be, depending on rise and rung of the, steepness of the pitch of the roof, that rubbish hook, that fireman's axe, they're invaluable tools. And by throwing that secondary near the area where we're operating, because that's generally what we do, right? We throw that secondary closer to the fire cut where we're going to cut. It's not going to be very far from you, theoretically, right? If this is going to happen, it's going to happen it could happen early on. We're not able to predict when the member goes through. It could happen right away. Got our head up our ass. As soon as we get up there, we're doing something. We thought we laddered the end ball, but you just got a heavy smoke condition throughout, whatever the scenario. And it goes in right away, or it goes in 30 minutes into the evolution. Who knows? But by throwing by it being in, you're going to get that ground ladder up to create a safer working platform to access the member or the hole. It needs to be in your repertoire at some point, especially if you're working on pre-engineered, but that's not even an excuse, right? In my opinion, most roof operations, you cut that fire, you cut that hole, you got a good fire venting out of that. You did the job, you're extending, that's the climax of this operation, right? That should start to get knocked down. It should start to go the other way. Engine can now make that fire and put it out. That's kind of a trigger point for me to now start thinking about getting a line up there. I don't know, you can't hard fast. This is when you got to get a line. But for me, we get to that area, we cut, we get that fire lifting. Okay, engine, do your job. And that's when I start to go, I can now break away and start to get a line up there, get a line established. And that's going to play, obviously, a huge role, the most important role into this worst case scenario that we're talking about. So our initial SOG really lends itself, if you stick to it, you play your positions, you bring the right equipment, the right type of equipment, it'll lend itself to this very, very bad day.
Mm-hmm. If I can add something to that, and that is, the operators are down on the ground, the engineers, these guys that are going to be waiting for that drop bag, or at least anticipating that there'll be a drop bag thrown from that roof company. If that thing's coming off the roof, don't ask if they need a line, right? And I would say this, our guys were at least where I was working, they were pretty in tune to when we started going above ground, and I say that from second story above and on commercial fires is getting that line in there. I was very specific of what I wanted, and for us, we're lucky because we have brush and grass within the city of Los Angeles, so we have a 1-inch hose line, and we tell that guy we had a specific nozzle we wanted. Those guys knew that. We wanted an 1880 1.5-inch nozzle reduced down to that 1-inch line. We told the guy to pump 300 pounds and it puts out a ton of fire and it's super maneuverable. I'm not telling you guys to go out and buy that. I'm just telling you, you may want to think that. But the second thing is that smoothbore tip may not be your friend on that roof operation. You might want to consider putting a spray nozzle if it's going to the roof. If you have that ability, please think about that. Because there's a lot of reasons why a line comes to the roof without a person partially in or all the way in, and that is for us smoke control, surface fire, right?
Bart, talk more about that. Smoke control for what?
For the operator. So if you've got, sometimes the bear gets you, and if that fucking wind is driving that smoke directly into your face, because guess what? Sometimes we don't get to have that on our back. That's not what happens. You can put that thing on a great fog pattern right down next to that saw, and it creates basically a buffer. It'll take it up and over their heads, right next to the saw operator.
Running.
Yes, and that's probably the second thing is keeping that. I watched a thing that Colin had the other day, was showing us some ventilation, that they were doing some strip ventilation. And I tell you, I've had it happen more than once, and that is, have it in your playbook, guys. When that saw starts not running well, take off the freaking plastic piece over the air cover, and you may want to dump the air cover too. I mean, the air cleaner too. It'll run. I'm telling you, it works. I've done it multiple times. So just keep that in mind. If it's choking out, you may want to get rid of those two pieces and throw them next to the parapet, and that saw will stay running even in that smoky condition.
it's always been when we talked about that topic, that specific thing in the past, and we posted about it. We got all these lumberjacks coming in there. That's nonsense. You're gonna fuck up the stall. You don't need it. I'm like, stay in your lane, lumberjack. We're on a under heavy spoke condition, and it absolutely works. It will improve the performance of the saw. It's not to say that your saw won't still fight, but it's gonna be doing a lot better than it was. And there's a recent video of nines going into someone else's district on a row of bungalows, I think they were, and it was real heavy smoke. And I think the AO had let the fireman cut, and he's bogging down from the smoke. He's like, "Hey, you literally hear him, take it off, take that off, get rid of it," and that's all. Picks right back up. It works. Sorry.
I've had guys tell me, "Oh, well, you're going to screw up that's the air intake," and guess what? I don't give a shit about. At that point, I don't give a shit, right? I don't.
That's why we have extra saws. That's why we have the shops.
Yeah, and that's why they have a budget, right? Not for pass out Band-Aids. Not for that Band-Aids are high incident, low risk. So keep that in mind.
So you talk about that smoke removal.
Yeah. So surface fire, smoke control, right? And the biggest thing is the protection line in case that fire flashes out of that hole on these guys. You got something that's lower flow, not smooth bore, and you're not sticking it directly in a hole as a ventilation operation. That changes dramatically when this guy or this person falls through that roof. Because I think at that point now, that beauty of me having that 80 GPM line is 80 gallons doesn't sound like much, but it's a lot for that kind of operation. And the maneuverability of that 1-inch line allows you to one-man that thing and pull it a country mile. It does.
Well, that's what just out.
What's that?
Well, let's play this out, Mark. So you guys were able to bring 1-inch up there with the sear nozzle so you can get more flow. But most of this country, and you're talking about smooth. Let's talk about smooth bore. So if it's a smooth bore line, it is going to be at a minimum of probably a 150 gallon a minute flow. That's the 7/8. It's going to get about 150. That's typically the smallest smooth bore line that a company's going to run. So that's that 1 3/4 line up there. They're going to be, if a member goes in, apart from all the things you just talked about, but if a member goes in, we're going to pummel that member with 150 gallons a minute in a solid slug pattern. We looked into this, and you need to be able to break that stream apart so that you can coat him without killing him, beating him up. And also this is the time when we do want to use the wind that nozzle creates and drive that shit away from it and off him. And I'm not worried about steaming out members on the periphery. I'm sorry. This guy is the priority now. We want to drive the fire condition away from them while coating them with water.
I would say again, that 1 3/4 line is a bear on the roof. It is. But it's a necessary evil. It is.
That's my minimum. That's my minimum.
It's a necessary evil. And keep in mind,
too.
if you're that second due truck and you see stuff going sideways, we always talk about adjuncting what's already in place. What would be wrong with you coming up? And that's your first move is get up to the top of that ladder, tie that thing off and get that line coming. And that may mean you guys run into that engine and pulling that line to that place, knowing that, hey, this has got to be a pretty fast operation. We got to get this up there. These guys are having issues versus get up there and get the guy's attention to, no, I'm grabbing the line. And hey, when you see us get it up on the roof and you see 50 feet up there, load that thing. Load it. Don't worry about me.
I don't know if sometimes with short circuits, we want to break up. We want to be able to break and widen the fog pattern. That's what I don't know if I even said that part. I'm jumping around. Sorry.
Yeah, but that's the beauty of that spray nozzle, right? Is that it allows you to go from smooth, and it's not as effective. I understand that. You purists with the smooth bores, I'm not arguing that point.
And their response to this would be, well, I'll just half bail. Well, half bailing needs half the flow. So we want the flow plus the pattern to coat this member and keep that stuff off him without knocking his face piece off because it's 100% stream, right?
100%. Right, or taking out something once we knock that face piece off, an eye or something. I would say we can beat this horse to death, but what I will tell you,
that's an important point.
My point on this whole thing is get up on the roof and find out how hard it is to do that operation so that you understand the time constraints that can be placed upon you in case that goes down, and go, could we incorporate getting this line up there earlier, kind of anticipating that we can do a lot of stuff with it, but it also is in place, God forbid, if somebody goes through, right? Those are the things we're talking about. It's like, just prepare, right? There's nothing wrong with preparing. And if you got it in your game plan and you put touches on it, you'll see that it gets better and faster. You can tweak things and go, okay, how can we get a little bit quicker on this, right? And that is, you just got to go do it step by step and continue to do it so that guys go, hey, it might take 5 minutes the first time, but you'll see that you can start going, hey, okay, how do we make this better? Can we get a guy to go to the pump and bring the fucking line to us versus, hey, wait till we get to the roof. And then this guy's, oh, he sees a drop bag come down. That's a delay. It may not sound like it, but it's a delay.
I think you mentioned it, Mark, but a drop bag comes off the roof. It should be unspoken.
Yeah.
Get a line to that bag. Get a hose line to that bag.
And I guess one further than that is, anybody that's going to be a consistent roof operator better have a drop bag on that BA.
And to be clear, we're talking about a rope bag, folks. I've had that question before. What do you mean by drop bag? We're talking about a rope bag.
Yeah, and if it's not part of that ventilation team, and I hate that where they go, well, yeah, that guy's got it right. Well, what happens when that guy isn't there? Or that's part of your morning check. Any company that goes to a roof should have that bag attached to their breather, or they could have their own individual one, however that is. But somebody's got to have one up there. And I say it's better, because if that somebody is a guy that fell through, now what's your plan B? But if everybody's got one, guess what? It's sheet music. You go, hey, well, they threw a hiccup at us, but we have already recovered because we require everybody to have one. But just a food for thought, guys.
I think just another little piece of that's kind of maybe a little hard to explain, but like when that line, when I see that drawback come down, and teaching at least your engine operators, those engine drivers, hey, bring that dry line to it, create just a single bite in that line and just large foot that line. It makes it so much quicker and smoother to go up than trying to do some double hitch over the nozzle, including the bell, and then the guy having to untie it on the roof. Really slick operations, just a single bite on that hose line with a single bite on the rope, and it's up. And
that's our department. That's become our department standard. We used to do this 18 clove hitches with 2 Frady cat knots. And when you get it up there, and now you're standing at the edge, especially on a pitched roof, right? 2 stories up. Yeah. You got a line that you're trying to get the rope off and not turn into a whole, mass confidence course. Disentanglement drill. Yeah, that quick large foot pop, let it fall, bring the line. I mean, that's Mark, and Mark showed us that a long time ago. That needs to be the standard.
Yeah, it's pretty slick.
And what about it's it's gonna, that come loose. It's only a large foot on a so no, the weight of the line and the tug cinches that thing down. It ain't coming off the hose, especially at that bite of hose. It's not coming off.
I will just offer out a little bit of advice. Do not try to pull that thing up to your waist and unsnap it, especially on fire escapes, because it'll turn into a blob of shit. It will. Once you get it to your height, you get it, stick it out in front of you, chest arm's length away, give it a snap, and that rope will fall, and you bring your line to wherever you need it.
That's the firemanship part of this, right? That is the fire. When you hoist that line, keep feeding the line back down. Don't bring it onto the roof. And like Mark's saying, when you get the line there, don't bring it onto the roof. Pop it over so all that rope is out of your way. Keep that rope on the vertical side of things. And now you also have a rope sitting there for anything else that may need.
Yep.
There. It's something that guys need to practice. You talked about the pregame of this, Mark, before we get something that guys need to practice. And this plays a role into that cardiac arrest, or you get the member that's partially and you get them out. You better have the proper length of webbing and know how to do a quick, hasty harness on a member. And we'll get into why that is, because we're going to lower that member from the roof, from the top side. Now you can go for the air pack straps and all that. We just said the 13 kilonewton, 3,000 pound rating. However, we've seen some sketchy things lately with some manufacturers' waist belts where you tap the damn buckle and it pops out. You and I, Mark in my department, both run that manufacturer. So get out there and test that. Make sure that's not happening. Literally, if you guys seen that where they put the waist belt connected and then they tap that seat belt buckle and bing, it comes open just from tapping it, not hitting the button, but like the action. So I don't know what that's about, but I'm sure they're addressing it. But if you're not comfortable doing that, you better be really familiar in a pinch with how to do a webbing hasting harness on a member to get him lowered so he doesn't die from the fall. He's already got a bad day going for him. Let's not add injury.
Yeah, and I would say another important thing to me is on the end of that rope bag that you're bringing up there, please make it a weight-bearing carabiner.
Not
Please.
these 7-Eleven rainbow colored.
Yep. Yeah, or a buckle, that you use on your fence at home where it's got that little sliding clasp half moon. That thing will fail on you. It will fail.
It needs to be rated.
Yes.
Good point. Good point. Anything else on that member partially in the roof that we haven't touched on?
Just cool him off, but he probably won't be there for long.
No, he's gonna want to drop.
Yeah. I mean, we can't obviously discuss it. It's very difficult to go to step by step. That's where the hands-on class and the lecture comes into. We're still open to doing that for those that want it. We pulled way back on doing hands-on classes, but we're not opposed to still going out for the in the right scenario. But that said, yeah, no, I mean that one's, and then it's going to branch into that member. The thing that I think we need to shake up their thinking is that this isn't one-dimensional. You're on the roof. That doesn't mean you are in the best possible position to not only paint the picture for the IC or the RIC company where this member is once they go all the way through, but you're also in the best position possibly for one of you to get hands on them. What are we talking about? We're talking about, again, that ladder you may have used to get out toward that hole. Maybe you created tenability with the hose line in the hole, right? Now can you put that ground ladder based off height of the building? Maybe it's a lower 1-story or it's an apartment house. Can you put that ground ladder now into that opening off of another ground ladder? Suit up, which you should already be, and take that line down in there that you created tenability and be right on that member. Yeah, we said that. We already talked about getting that line horizontal in that attic space where they might be trapped for that partial, or that's as far as they go into it, and creating tenability there, kind of uninvolved, coming at it from an uninvolved angle. But we're not opposed to, and you absolutely should consider, if you can create tenability with that hose line, keep going down to the member that went all the way through. If it works out to where you have a sound platform that ground ladders off of and it can reach the floor, get down there. You'll get to it before anyone else will, more than likely. And then at that point, it's buddy breathe, assess, but most importantly, keep the fire off them and direct the RIT team to them.
Yeah, eyes on is the best possible scenario, right? Even though we think that disappeared, he's saying it over and over again. I say that it's get inside there, man. Can you go in remote of the bad area? Let's do that. Do you need to be able to take out a rafter? You might have to dump a rafter with a saw.
Yeah.
You might have to do that, right? And all that does is, if he is coming out here, isn't it easier to do it with 48 versus 24? Think about that. That saw still can become a friend. It's still friendly for you, right? And that's why I'm so adamant about, we got to have 2 up on those type of buildings, right? And single family dwelling, you're probably not bringing 2 saws. I know I didn't. Okay. However, is there a time and a place for it? I truly believe, man, especially the more remote you get away, larger buildings, commercials, and you're definitely out of view. I would hope you guys are taking 2 saws a roof. That's what I said, because if that operator was a guy that had one and he goes in, oh shit, how do I get in there to do something else to help him? Yeah, you got your axe, I hope. But again, that's like, I will say this, and I'll say it across the board. Horsepower will kick manpower's ass every single day. And everybody wants to argue with me about that. I would say, sell your fire truck, buy yourself a steamer and some horses, and let's go back to that era. Keep it in mind.
Yeah. Well, it is kind of hard to explain, but that getting into it where I'm blowing out a rafter a few bays away and putting in a roofer or something or a straight ladder to help leverage. That leverage is a game changer. When you play with it, you can almost kind of see where it's such an easy thing. You can almost pin that member up against that material. That's hard to get them off of there. but that leverage is a game changer if he's partially into the roof to help get him up and out of there.
Teeter totter almost.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard for the listener to picture what we're talking about. And
Yeah.
we'll post some stuff to kind of help guide this conversation or give you a better
Yeah.
what we're discussing.
Yeah, but I think the greatest thing, right, like, is, hey, this is, we're going to the roof, and there's a solid plan to do it, like you reiterated, Colin, but there's a plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. We're going to keep going, like you mentioned also, until we get this members issue resolved. We get them, right? There's no stopping. There's, hey, okay, let's go to the next thing. Let's go to the next thing. Let's go to the next thing until we get you.
And that's what firemen do, right? That's the good part about that is I think in an overarching part of that incident is we don't quit, especially when it's one of our guys, right? We don't quit. It should be to the point that we go, I'm going with that guy, right? Because that's my reason for ventilation is my people. It is. The after effect of that is, in my eyes, when I allow my people to get to the seat of the fire pasture, when I clear up that smoke condition, what I'm also doing is improving the survivability of any victim inside of that particular structure, right? I say that I fight for my guys. I am. That's my number one priority. I understand that there's probably or could be people inside there, and I'm going to get that so that they can get to that person faster by doing that roof ventilation. So keep those things in mind, especially if, God forbid, one of your people go through. It's like, now I'm singularly focused. However, what I will say is, if you're another company operating in the area and you hear that, we talked about that in yesterday's little scenarios, and that is, it's not the RIC team that gets this guy. Historically, it's not it. I'm not saying that they don't play an important role. However, what I will say is, don't stop the firefight. And if you can't do anything else for this guy, continue to fucking ventilate, right? It's huge. I mean, you can get a lot of shit out of there. If I got a little 2x2 or, 4x4 hole and I increase the hole or pull away and go somewhere else or motive him, but I possibly redirect that. We know we can do that. We can redirect the path of fire and smoke by giving it air. We know that. So just something else to throw out there. Hey, that may be something that second truck does on the other side of the roof line, whatever. I'm just saying, don't be limited to just, okay, hey, he's got this and we don't have anything else. We got no other plan. Hey, sometimes it just takes going, hey, think outside the box.
I just want to piggyback on what Mark just said there. We are so good at prepping for, this has been a topic Mark and I have talked about a lot. We are so good at prepping for, we're going to kick that fire's ass. We're going to get up there and kick that roof's ass. The wind, we're prepping for the wind. We don't do a lot. It's lopsided. I think it's safe to say in our preparation for prepping for the loss, prep for the failure, and that re-release of that newer version of that Last Dying Breath video really kind of knocked me upside the head and said, hey, from top to bottom, firefighter survival, including this, getting really familiar with my gear, getting familiar with my air pack, being able to manipulate in tight spaces, all these things, which the attic could be one of those scenarios. It really kind of knocked the dust off and made me aware, we should probably prep for the loss just as equal. And we do when we develop a roof member Mayday SOG, but it's beyond that. Prep for the loss and everything you do from start to finish. And when you get there in the morning, and that video kind of really, it's a great thing to watch. It's a really good thing to watch. Cam, I'd like to just talk about the thing that we talked about in terms of like that medical episode.
Yeah, exactly. So we got a roof member that's had some sort of a medical emergency, right? Most likely he's an MI, but it could be anything, right? It could be a stroke. It could be whatever's happened up there. And
what's an MI?
Heart attack.
Oh, okay.
We got an EMS podcast here.
I'm gonna throw in a gauntlet right here. You guys will never ever hear another mention of EMS because that is a cardinal sin. So just keep that in mind. No more, or I quit.
But hey, how are we gonna get that? How are we gonna get that member off? Well, what's a good plan for that? Because that's a highly likelihood. It's a fairly high likelihood that could happen.
You're up there with me.
Mayday.
It could be me. It'll be me.
Yeah, old man.
I would tell you that we have drilled on that and drilled on it, and the devil's in the details with all this stuff. And, there's a lot of, for a while, there was a lot of companies practicing. If one of your member has a medical episode inside the structure, how to do compressions while getting gear off them at the same time. Cause that's a shit show. It could be, you can only imagine, right? That's something you got to practice. How do you get compressions going on this member on the roof while still getting the harness on him, right? And not fighting each other. Cause we all know the compressions, that's what happens. That's what's going to save them. We got to keep the blood flowing while you get the harness on them and then get them relocated to the ladder. That you definitely go and drill on this, fellas, ladies. It's, I think you'll have your eyes open if you've never given this any kind of thought. From that, it's now, again, man, I keep saying that roof ventilation SOG is going to play a role. You have that ladder that we don't need the heavy rescue team. We don't need the USAR task force to set up a high point and no, man, that rope bag, right? The rope bag, the hasty harness, and the rungs of that ladder are now a quick, easy, friction lowering device. It's very simple to do, very easy. You have to practice it. You have to train on it. Obviously, you need to inspect your ladders, make sure your shit's in good working order, which we should be doing. And yes, it works on wood ladders as well. So, practice that friction device, wrapping a couple rungs. You got to reverse the bag. Don't throw your bag down. Keep the bag up and feed the beaner out. Feed the carabiner down and around. You got to get up there and practice this for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That one I think it's a little hard to explain to without a visual seeing that.
And again, we'll post pics.
Yeah. 100%.
And you can even, if you got, say the member is where it goes down is just you're on a commercial and there's no ladders near you. If you got a good tall parapet, you don't even need a tall parapet, but a decent parapet and a couple members, you can create your own bomb-proof anchor to lower that member by pushing up that parapet wall and getting low on the roof. There's a lot of ways to do this. You can push off on a large HVAC unit on the roof. It can be your stopper, your anchor, your push-off point. There's a lot of be creative. Don't be dumb. Be logical, but be creative. If you look around, there's ways to get this done.
Mm-hmm.
Don't wait for it to happen, right? Is basically what you're saying. It's like, don't wait for it to happen to try and formulate a plan because it won't go well. I can guarantee it.
No.
You might get lucky, but I would say that the odds are against that luck.
There's that mantra that keeps coming up. Mark, is that the new American Fire Service mantra? Better lucky than good?
Yeah. I don't know, dude. I'm not involved in it anymore. You guys will have to answer that for me. You guys will have to answer that for me.
This guy. Now he's taking. Anyways, let's move on.
Anything else you guys want to touch on Mayday on the roof? Oh, no, we haven't yet.
We'll see.
I'm sure there's going to be questions up, down, above it. It's because there's a lot of stuff that we covered 2 days, probably, close to 2 hours worth of talk, but that's a very important part of what you guys do. If you're going to go to the roof, please have some kind of plan when stuff doesn't go right. That plan B is what we like to call it, right? You might have to deflect into a plan C. So keep those things in mind. Train those new members either to the firehouse or to the fire service before it happens. If you're getting up on a roof and that guy's first day, you guys get that, that career fire that people talk about, and you have an issue and you haven't at least addressed this thing, I would say it should be part of your SOGs. Like, this is what we do on this roof. This is what we do on this roof. And this is the actual sheet and the bullets in case we have an issue on that roof. And that would be that firefighter's Mayday. That should be another handout to every single person that comes into that firehouse.
Mm-hmm. Hit us up and we can send you our roof member Mayday SOG, just maybe to look it over and make it work for your own crew.
Yep, make the adjustments and
I also I'm sure that we by no means have thought of everything.
Yeah.
And there's so many different styles of roof that will present different opportunities to achieve all these things. Man, if you got an idea, again, send it to us. We want to know. We want to learn too. Send it to us in the email, the West Coast Offense at gmail.com, or into the DMs.
Yep. Well, it's a good place to wrap up, I think. Thanks again, guys. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and hopefully we hear some stuff from you. And we'll see everyone on the next episode. Have a good day. See ya.
How about that?